Hello students, welcome to this class on PHP. Right, so today we are going to learn about what is PHP and how PHP programs can be used. So before that, what is a PHP? PHP is a server-side language. Now we have already learnt about HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Bootstrap, right? All these things are nothing but client-side programming. But when it comes to server side, now PHP is one of a server side programming language. Now what is the difference between a client side and a server side? Now in client side, whatever you write, whatever the program you create, it will be executed on your web browser. Right? It will be executed on your browser on your system. That is why it is called as client side programming. But when you want the program to be executed on a server, then we are going to use server-side programming, right? So server-side scripting is a technique used in web development which involves employing scripts on a web server which produce a response customized for each user's request to the website. So for example, a client will request a server for some data, right? So the script which must be executed on the particular server side is called server side programming language, right? What type of scripts you are going to use there. Now alternative is for web browser itself to deliver a static page, right? So for example, server side scripting is distinguished from client side scripting, whereas JavaScript are run on particularly on a web browser, but right? So but server side scripts are completely different from a client side, right? So client side, the programs will be executed on your browser on your system. In server side, it will be executed on the server itself, right? So server side scripting is oftenly used to provide a customized interface for the user. So to provide this customized interface for the user, we use server side scripting, right? Going on, there are different number of server-side programming languages. For example, ASP, ASP.NET. We have server-side JavaScript, that is Node.js. We have Perl, we have PHP, we have Python, and in Python we have Pyramid, Flask, Django. R programming is there, right? So there's so many server-side programming language which are actually there. We can use any of those programming languages. But in this class, we are going to learn about PHP, right? So what is PHP? Now what is PHP? PHP is widely used open source scripting language, right? It is completely open source and it is widely being used. Now when you go to a website or any website, in the address bar you can see www.google.com/1.php, introduction.php, about.php. You can see the .php, right? So that is nothing but that page is completely written in PHP. That means it is executed on a server, right? So it is widely used. You can see almost around 60 to 70% of the websites are made up of PHP web pages, right? So PHP, what do you mean by PHP? The full form of PHP is nothing but hypertext preprocessor, right? So PHP full form is hypertext preprocessor. Now PHP is free to download and use. You can download it freely and you can use the PHP. Next, PHP script are executed on a server. As I told you, it will be executed on a server, right? It will not be executed on your client machine, but instead it will be executed on a web server, right? So basically there are three main areas where PHP can be used in server-side scripting and in command line scripting, and also when you are writing desktop applications. Right, PHP is probably not the very best language to create a desktop application with a GUI, but if you know PHP very well and would like to use some advanced PHP features in your client programming, then you can actually create a desktop applications as well once you learn about PHP. Now PHP can be used in all major operating systems including Linux, Unix variants, Microsoft Windows, Mac, RISC OS. Right, so probably there are the other OS where you can use PHP. Now PHP also has a support for most of the web browser servers today. This includes Apache, IIS and many others, right? So basically there are different web servers which are available. So PHP can be used in all those web servers, right? So this was about the definition of PHP. Now what is a PHP file? Now just like how we have .html, .css, .javascript, that is .js, right? So same way, even a PHP file has its own extension. Now that is .php, right? So PHP files have an extension .php. Now PHP file can contain HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and also PHP code, right? So it can contain your client-side programming languages as well as a PHP code in that particular .php file, right? So PHP code is executed on a server and the result is returned to the browser as a plain HTML. Very simple. So you write the code, you execute it on a server, and the result will be available to your browser and it will be displayed as a plain HTML, right? So this is one advantage of PHP. Now what can actually PHP do? What can PHP do? PHP can encrypt data, right? So it can encrypt data so that other people should not see your data, right? So that is one advantage. Next we have create, open, read, write, delete and close files on the server. So you can do all of these things on a server when you use PHP. You can create a file, create a new file, open the particular file, you can read the file, you can write into the file, you can delete that file as well, and you can close that file, right? So you can do all of these things on server. Now send and receive cookies, you already know about cookies, right? You can send the cookies, receive the cookies, right? So all those things can be done in PHP very easily. Next we have collect form data. So PHP is probably used mostly to collect the form data from a user. For example, you would have created a form using a client-side language. So there you would have given form action is equal to something, right? So basically what does this PHP do? It collects the data from that particular form. Whenever you click on the submit button, it collects the data from the client, then it processes it on the server, right? So it can collect form data. It can add, delete, modify data in your database. Now PHP has this amazing thing that it can connect to the database. I'm going to show you how databases are used in PHP, right? So it can add data, delete data, modify the data in your particular database, right? So next, to control user access, to also control the user access, whoever wants to come to your website, to control all of those things, PHP are used. Now why do we have to use PHP? Let me tell you why do we have to use PHP. It is compatible with almost all servers. Just like I told you, it is compatible with Apache, IIS, etc. Right? So it is compatible. So that is why we are going to use PHP. It runs on various platforms. Windows, Linux, Unix, Mac, OS. Right? So it can be used in all of these things. Next we have, it supports wide range of databases. Right? So it can be used with many databases, right? So next we have, it is easy to learn and runs efficiently on the server side. So it is very easy to learn PHP, just like HTML, it is very easy to learn PHP and it runs efficiently on a server side. Next, it is completely free, you don't have to pay anything. You can download it from the official website www.php.net. So let me show you the website of www.php.net. Now as you can see, I have opened the php.net official website. So you can see, you can download it here. You can see 4.4, the latest release. You can see all the latest releases here, right? So you can directly download it. You can go to download. There you can see, you can directly download the PHP files, right? So now what I'm going to do, I'm not going to download it here. I'm going to show you a new a software called XAMPP. So what is XAMPP? So let me tell you what is XAMPP. So when you Google search XAMPP, you can find this XAMPP installers and downloads for Apache friends. So what is a XAMPP? XAMPP is nothing but a free and open source cross-platform web server solution stack package developed by Apache friends, consisting of mainly, it consists of Apache server, MariaDB database, that is MySQL, and interpreters for scripts written in PHP and programming. So we are not downloading the PHP directly from the official website. Instead, we are using this particular XAMPP software, right? So way to download this XAMPP software, you can directly go to this option called download. So you can choose your system here. If it is 64-bit, 64 or 32-bit, whatever is your system, you can download it directly here. And once you download it, you can open the XAMPP. So I've already downloaded it. So when I click on the XAMPP control panel, you can see all of these things are already available here, right? So you can see the Apache server which has been installed. You can see MySQL also there. You can see FileZilla. You can see Mercury Tomcat server. So basically all this will be available in this XAMPP. So basically this is like a complete package of a server, of a database and interpreters for PHP files, right? So you can use XAMPP. So I've already told you, first you have to go to apachefriends.org/download.html. You can find the download file for XAMPP here, right? Now, how do you actually run PHP files? Because since it is executed on a server, first you need to have a server in your system. For that purpose, I already told you that XAMPP is used to create a web server, right? So, but how to run it? If your server has activated support for PHP, you do not need to do anything. Just create some .php files, place them in your web directory, and server will automatically parse them for you. You do not need to compile anything or install any extra tool. If you install XAMPP, it's more than enough. You don't need to install any other tools. Because PHP is free, web hosts offer PHP support, right? So PHP is completely free. You can download it. Now, what is the syntax of it? So before that, I'll tell you how to start a server on your particular system. As I told you, I have opened the XAMPP control panel here. To start your web server, to start the Apache server, you can just go here and click on start. So when you click on the start, you can see the port numbers where the Apache server is running, that is 80,443, right? So when you go on this admin and click it, you can see welcome to XAMPP. So what does it contain? It contains Apache plus Maria database plus PHP plus Perl, right? So there are two different languages you can use in this. PHP can also be used, Perl can also be used, and also it has a database with it in Apache, right? So this is how you can go to the admin here. Now the PHP can be written and you can execute that particular commands whatever you give in your PHP. So this is how you can start the web server. If you want to start the database, go to this MySQL, click on start, right? So when you click on the start, it will be executed on port number 3306. So that means your client machine has a database in it now. How to go to that particular database? You can click on this admin. So when you click on this admin, it will ask you for local host. Here also if you come, you can see the local host. So localhost is nothing but you have created a server in your system, right? So localhost. Now this is your database. This is how your database looks. Now we are not touching the database right now. We are going to see that later, right? So we are going to see how PHP scripts are executed now, right? So this is how your XAMPP control panel looks. You can start and stop. If you want to stop, you can just click on stop. We do not use these three as of now. Only these two things are used. If you want to stop, you can just stop. Right. So let me start it. So let us do some PHP programming. Let us understand how PHP works. Now syntax. So coming to syntax, a PHP script can be placed anywhere in the document. Anywhere in the document, right? So you can put it even between the HTML tags, even the JavaScript, in the CSS, anywhere. But you will have to mention this syntax. That is the starting and the ending. A PHP script starts with Angular braces, then question mark PHP, and ends with question mark and Angular braces close. But this is how PHP works, right? So inside that you will have to write your own PHP code. So this is the syntax of it. The default file extension for PHP files is .php, right? So a PHP file normally contains HTML tags and some PHP scripting code, right? So let me just go to my code editor and show you how to create these things. Before going to code editor, let me tell you one important thing here. So once you download the XAMPP, once you install it, there will be a file, there will be a folder which will be created in your local disks, right? So let me show you where it is. When you go to this local disk C, right? So here you can see XAMPP has been created. Now this is the third time I am installing the XAMPP. That is why I have given different names. So this time I have installed XAMPP, so I have given it as XAMPP demo. So when I go here, you can see all these files which are related to your server, databases, Perl, PHP and all those things, right? You can see the PHP myadmin here also. So now you will have to understand one important thing. If you want to execute any PHP file, just like how you executed HTML file, JavaScript file, CSS file, if you want to execute a PHP file, you will have to save all the files in this particular document called htdocs. You will have to save every file in this particular thing. Or you can create a folder here and do that. Let me show you how. Create a new folder. as PHP demo. So I've created a new folder here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to VS Code right now. So let me open VS Code. So I've opened VS Code here. So let me open that particular folder which I created just now. So let me go back to local disk C. Then I told you already, this is the third time I'm installing. That is why I've given XAMPP demo. When you install it for the first time, it will be called as XAMPP. So XAMPP demo, htdocs, open this particular folder. So once you open this particular folder, there's nothing in it. So let me create a file. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a file called demo.php. I already told you demo.php. So once you do this demo.php, you can see that, and you can see this symbol, right? So ignore all of those things because we are not going to use any live server here. We are going to use directly the Apache. So let me tell you how. When you see this .php, it will automatically show this elephant. Elephant is the symbol for PHP, right? So there, now what is the syntax of it? So let me show you. This is how you'll have to create, right? So you can write anything. Maybe I'm going to comment it. So PHP code goes here. So if you want to close it, you can see this. Now close it. Now I want to run this. Now how do I run this? What I'm going to do, I'm going to go for localhost. You can see the dashboard here, right? So let me do one thing. Here what I'm going to do, instead of dashboard, I'm going to give the folder name which I had given, that is PHP demo. When you see this, you can see there is one. This is the parent directory which I have opened here, and also in that parent directory I have this file. So when I click on it, you can see there is nothing. Why nothing? Because I have not given anything here, but you can see this particular thing called demo.php. That means your local host is working and your PHP file is executed on the server now. Correct? You can see this demo.php. If it shows any error, that means your server is not working or your PHP program has not properly executed. Now to understand that, you can see demo.php, right? So this is how you directly execute it. Now you cannot open this within live server and do all of those things. So let me tell you, there's no option now. See, there's no option of open with live server here, because PHP is a web server programming language, and that is why you don't get this all live server and all those things. For that, you will have to go here, search for this extension called PHP. When you click on PHP, you can see PHP IntelliSense, IntelliFone, debug, all these things are there. But I don't want you guys to get confused, since it is very little confusing. So that is why I am using it directly is localhost. So it is very easy. You can directly give the localhost / folder name / your file name. So it will be directly executed on your web server. So let me show an example. Just like how you have in C++ or C println, cout, in HTML you can put the tags. What I'm going to do, I am going to write a code called echo. Echo means print. I'm going to put TechWord Labs Private Limited. Now I'll save it. Now if I go back and check the output, so I'm here, let me refresh this, go back, click on, you can see echo TechWord Labs Private Limited, right? Now again I'm going to put one more thing. I have to end this with semicolon, echo, I'm going to put my name, save, go back, and you can see there's nothing. Why? Because this is not a live server. Remember, this is not a live server. You will have to refresh it. You can see my name is there. Now let us check if our HTML tag works. That is BR, blind break, right? So let me go back, refresh. There's error. Correct? So how do we do that? This, you can see syntax error, unexpected, end of line. Correct? So there's some error. So we'll remove this. Again go back if there is an error. There is an error, right? So there is an error. So how do we do it? So we'll check this in the next following sessions. But before that, I want you guys to understand how the PHP code runs here. So if you make any errors, you'll get some errors like this, parse error, syntax error, right? All those things error would be there. So you'll have to understand the PHP syntax first, and then you'll have to do it, right? So let us move forward. Now we're going to see case sensitivity. Now what is case sensitivity? In HTML, there was no case sensitivity, right? Everything you can write HTML tags with a capital letter or a small letter, uppercase, lowercase, capital case, sentence case, right? So all those things you can do in there. Even in PHP, you can do that. In PHP, keywords if, else, while, echo, classes, functions, and user-defined functions are not case sensitive. Remember, all these predefined keywords are not case sensitive. In this example, all the three echo statements below are equal and legal. You can see echo. It can be capital echo. It can be small echo. It can be one capital letter, one small letter, one capital letter, one small letter, right? So you can do that in PHP. So let us see this example. Here, let me add EHCCHO, and again I'm going to put TechWord Labs, right? So let me add TechWord Labs now. So close it, control save it, go back, refresh. You can see it has appeared here, right? So it is not case sensitive. You can use it either capital letters or small letters, or either mix of capital letters and small letters. That is also fine. Now coming to the next topic, that is comments, right? So what is comments? Comments are nothing but your own thoughts which you have. For example, you would have written some code, so you will have to understand what that code is. For that, you will have to use comment section. This comment section will not be displayed on a PHP web server or anything. This is only for your use, your understanding. A comment in PHP line is a line that is not executed as a part of a program. Its only purpose is to read by someone who is looking at the code. Now, for example, if some other person wants to look at the code, right, so you write these comments to make them understand what exactly this code does. If you do not write it, it might become difficult for that particular person to understand what code you have written there, right? So that is what is comments. But these comments are not executed as a part of a program. Understand this. When you put this, there are two different types of comments. One is single line comment and one is multiple line comments. So if you use this, one is single line is for single line comments. If you want multiple line comments, you can put this particular thing. So let us check how do we do it. So let me add a comment here, right? So this is a single line comment. So let me add single line comment. So I've added single line comment now, right? So control save and go back and refresh. You can see it is not appeared. Why? Because I made it commented here, right? So again single line comment, you have one more thing called hash also. You can use hash as well for single line comment. Again go back, refresh it. You can see there is no particular line called single comment because it takes as a comment and it will be not executed on the PHP server, right? So again, for the multiple line comments, what you can do, you can use this, right? So here, let me remove this here till here. Let me make it comments now. Now this TechWord Labs will not be appeared on your output. Refresh. You can see that TechWord Labs vanished. Why? Because it takes this whole statement as multi-line comments. If you want one more thing, you can put it directly here. You can directly put whatever you want, right? So it will take as a complete multi-line comment. So that is why you cannot see the output over there, right? So this is about comments. So getting started, let us create this file called myfirst.php and we'll add this following code. So this is how I told you already, this is how you include PHP code inside a HTML, right? So let us do this first. So let me remove this. Now I'm going to get the structure of HTML, right? So I've got the structure. Now here what I'm going to do, I'm going to add h1, right? So h1 my first program, right? So I've added an h1 tag now. So I've closed it. I've closed the h1 tag. Now here inside this I'm going to put PHP tag here. PHP, what I'm going to put? I'm going to put echo first program, right? So close it, again close the PHP. Now you can see there is HTML also and there is PHP also here. So let me see the output, go back, refresh. You can see my first program is HTML and next comes the PHP line, right? So if I want to change this, I can add a CSS file here. So let me add a CSS file. I'm gonna add style, right? So h1, right? So h1, I'm gonna add color. Let me add color red. Can directly add, so let me remove this, control save, refresh. There's nothing. Why? Because you will have to use, you have to close this first. You can see that it is red color here, right? So you can directly add this as well once you write your first program, all those things. Coming to the next topic, variables. Now what is a variable? A variable is nothing but a container for storing information, right? So in a PHP, a variable starts with $sign followed by the name of a variable. Now in JavaScript also we saw it, in jQuery also we saw it, dollar symbol was used, right? So dollar symbol in PHP means that it is a variable, right? You can see this variable they have created here, text variable, and inside the text variable hello world is added using a inverted quotes. When you're writing a string, it should be inside a quote. Then for a variable x, you can see 5, variable y, you can see different, right? So let us add this in a program. So here, let me add here itself. So I'm going to create a variable called txt, right? So $txt of, I'm going to put hello world, right? So again, close it, control save, go back, check the output. There's nothing because we are not displaying it, we are just creating a variable. So let us see how do we display. Echo $txt, go back, you can see it is displayed, hello world is displayed, correct? So why did it display? Because I have used echo here. Now if I want to add, maybe I'm going to create a variable called $x equals 10, $y equals 20. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create one more variable, $c is equal to $x plus $y. So I'm going to display $c now. So let me display $c. Go back, check the output. You can see the answer 30 came here, right? So let's check if BR works here. BR will work here. There's some problem. What is that? Syntax error, unexpected, Angular, expecting end of the file. Let us check what happened here. Remember, when you are using line breaks, you will have to create it inside an echo text here, right? So let me add BR here. So inside this you will have to create, then only your program will work. Refresh. You can see it is in the next line now. You cannot directly use BR here and here. You will have to do it in the echo. So then only your BR will work, right? Now these are of the few rules which are very important to create a variable. So a variable can have a short name like X and Y, or a more descriptive name, maybe age, car name, total volume, total sales. You can have all of these names, but there are few rules for creating a PHP variable. So let us understand those rules. The name first start with a letter or underscore character. So it should start with a letter or underscore, right? So they must start with $sign followed by the name of the variable. So the name cannot start with a number. Just like I told you, the variable name must start with a letter or an underscore character. That's it. No special characters are allowed in the starting. It should not start with a number. The names are case sensitive. $small age and $age are two different variables. Understand this. They are case sensitive basically, right? So it is not like your keywords in PHP. They are case sensitive. So the name can only contain alphanumeric characters and underscores. They can only contain alphanumeric characters or underscore. You can see the example, that is A to Z, 0 to 9 and underscore. You cannot add any dollar symbol in the middle. You cannot add any flower bracket in the middle, right? So it should always follow these rules. So let us check the output of all of those things and understand the difference. So here, let me create C underscore and flower bracket, control save. Now go back, check the output. You can see there is an error, that is unexpected, right? Why? Because this is a variable name. You cannot add a flower bracket there. Here, let me refresh. Undefined variable. Why? Because here I have given $C and here I have given underscore. Here also if I add underscore, you will get the output. Refresh. You can see the output now. Correct? So there are only two things which you can use. Three things, sorry. A to Z or 0 to 9 or an underscore. You cannot use plus, minus, multiplication symbol, brackets open, ampersand, power symbol, percentage symbol. You cannot use any of those things. Either it should be an underscore, it should never start with a number. If you start with a number, your variable is not declared properly and it shows as an unexpected error. Right, so this is about variables. Next we have is the PHP echo and print statement. We have already learned about echo, so let us go through it once again. With PHP there are two basic ways to get an output. So echo is not only the one where you can print your output, but also there are two ways, basically echo and print. Now they are more or less the same. They are both used to output the data to the screen. So differences, there are few differences between echo and print. So those are, echo can take multiple parameters, although such usage is rare, while print can take only one argument. Now print can only take one argument. It cannot take multiple parameters. But echo can take multiple parameters. Echo has no return value, while print has a return value of 1. Right, so print has that return value of 1, whereas echo does not have a return value. Right, so it can be, when you use print, it can be used in expressions. Why? Because it has a return value. Next, echo is marginally faster than print. There's some difference, that is a millisecond or some difference is there between echo and print. So echo is executed a little bit faster than print. Now you can see there's an example over here. Echo statement can be used with or without parenthesis, right? It can be used with or without parenthesis. Here in example they have shown everything here. Echo H2 of PHP is fun. Echo hello from TechWord Labs. Again BR is inside that particular thing. I am about to learn PHP, right? So all these things you can directly do it. Now let me add something here and see the output. So here let me remove all of those things here. So let me add a H1 tag inside this particular thing. So let me add H1. Now refresh, go back, check the output. You can see both the things are H1 now. Correct? So now what I'm going to do, I am going to add echo. I'm going to put H2. Here I'm going to put H2. Again hello. Close the H2. Again put BR here. Close it. Now refresh. You can see hello. Right? So you can directly use echo in all those things. You can add HTML tags inside echo. You can add HTML tag anywhere there. BR can be added. Line breaks can be added. Right? So echo is used something like this. Now even print can also be used same as echo. You can see print statement can be used with or without parenthesis. Print or print off. Document type HTML. All these things are there. Print H2 PHP is fun, print hello from TechWord Labs, again line break, print I'm about to learn PHP, right? So all these things you can directly do it using echo or print, both the things are fine, right? So this is the output which you get. Now the data types, right? So let us learn about the data types which are used in PHP. The first type of data type, you can see variables can store data of different types, and different data types can do different things, right? So PHP supports the following data types. You can see string, integer, floating numbers also called as double, boolean, true or false, array, collection of elements, object, null, resource, right? So all these things, all these data types are supported by PHP. So let us look at each and everything. First, let us understand PHP string. A string is a sequence of characters like hello world. Basically, it's a string of characters which should be there within double quotes or single quotes. Then only your string will work. If it is not in a single quote or double quote, your particular PHP string will not work, right? So let us see an example. Let me remove all of this. Here I am going to put echo. this is my string, right? So this is my string, control save, refresh, you can see hello world here, right? So this is basically a string. So if I don't use this double quotes, let's check what will happen if I don't use this double quotes. Go back, refresh, you can see there's an error world t string, right? So expecting double quotes or single quotes or semicolon. Now I'm gonna add this. I've added this again, refresh, you can see the output hello world, right? So this is how you can use PHP strings. PHP string can be of any numbers, you can add any characters in that, you can add paragraphs together in that directly. Next we have is PHP integer. Now an integer data type is a non-decimal number. Maybe it can be between -2, 147, 483, 648 and 2, 147, 483. This is basically the highest number and the lowest number, right? It can be between these two things. An integer data type can be between these two things, right? So rules for integers. So there are few rules for integers as well in PHP. So an integer must not have a decimal point. If you are using a decimal point, it will become a floating number or a double number. In PHP integer, we do not have a decimal point. An integer must have at least one digit. It should be having at least one digit. An integer must have at least one digit. Integer can specify in decimal, hexadecimal or octal or binary, base 2, base 8, base 16, base 10, right? So all these things can be done when you are using integers. Now integers can be either positive or negative, just like I told you in the definition. It can be between -2, 147, 483, 648 and also 2, 147, 483, 647, right? So it can be between these two numbers. So hence it can be positive or negative. So this is an example. You can see $x. So let me show you this variable dump. Basically var_dump is called variable dump. What does this variable dump do is it tells us what kind of variable is used here in the output screen itself. So let us check the output of it. So here let me create a variable called $x. So let me create $x equals 10. Here you don't need any invited quotes because it is an integer. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to put variable dump. You can see this variable dump of, again I'm going to put $x. Now what happens, it will actually tell me what kind of data type is used in the output screen itself. Refresh, you can see int of 10. But if I don't use variable dump and just use echo, so let me add echo. Here I have just used echo, right? So now if you see, the answer should be 10. You can see 10, right? If you use variable dump, then the whole data type itself will be displayed there. This one, if you use this, the whole data type only will be displayed, that is int. Correct? So this is the difference between normal echo and variable dump. Next, we will be seeing PHP float. Now floating number is nothing but a decimal number. It is also called as double. Float, that is floating point number, is a number with a decimal point or a number in exponential form, right? So that is dot 365, dot 2, dot 5, 10.2, 10.5, 11.2, 11.5, right? So all these things are called decimal number, but in programming languages we call it as float numbers or double numbers, right? So let us check this output as well. Here I have given 10, right? So I'll write 10.5. Now control save it, go back, it should show float now. You can see float, correct? Float of 10.5. So this, why did this float come? Because I have used variable dump. If I used only echo, then you have only probably got 10.5, correct? So this is about float. Next we have PHP boolean. Boolean type is nothing but true or false, 0 or 1, yes or no, right? Only two values are there in boolean, that is true or false, two possible states. $x can be true, $y can be false. Booleans are often used in conditional testing. Now if there are any conditions to be tested, so in that particular thing we are going to use this booleans. Right, so next we have PHP array. Array is nothing but a collection of characters or collection of elements which are of same data type. Right, you can see this. An array stores multiple values in one single variable. In the following example, $web is an array. The PHP variable dump function returns the data type and value. You can see this, right? So let me create an array. How do we create an array? So here, let me remove this first. Now I'm going to create an array. So I'm going to create a variable first. $x is equal to array of. Right? This is how we create it. Array. Now I'm going to put HTML is the first element. CSS is the second. It should be in inverted quotes because you are using string here. Right, so again I'm going to use JS. Close this. Now I'm going to variable dump this. I have already told you variable dump of $x. It will tell the strings now. Let me see the output. You can see this. So array of 3 elements are there inside that particular array. First element of that particular array has 4 characters. So that is by string of 4. Next you have second, that is 1. That is, you have 3 characters in that CSS. Next again for the third, the array will always start from 0, 1, 2, 0, right? It will start from 0. So that is why you have 0 here. Second element is called as 1. Third element is called as 2. So again for the thing JS, you have 2 characters. It is a string, right? So this is how array will work, right? You can create array of numbers as well. So let me create $y equals array of, I'm going to create 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. So I'm going to close it. Now I'm going to variable dump this. So I'm going to dump this. So let me add $y. Now close it, control save, go back, check the output. There's some error. Array. Okay, I'm not given this properly. Yes. Now refresh. You can see array, there are 5 elements. First element is an integer, second element is an integer, third also integer, fourth also integer, fifth also integer, right? So this is how you can use PHP arrays. So you can create lot of arrays when it particularly depends on your program. It depends on what exactly you are doing to create all these arrays. Next, how do we actually create a PHP object? Now an object is a data type which stores data and information on how to process that data. In PHP, an object must be explicitly declared. First we must declare a class, then we have to use the class keyword to declare, right? So a class is a structure that can contain properties and methods. Now this is an example of how do we actually create a class and an object. You can see class web of function. We have used function web, right? So you can see this dot model. So let me not worry about this because in future we are going to learn about this particular PHP object, but you can have a look at this particular syntax of creating a class and a function, because functions we are going to deal that later. Next we have is our PHP null value. Null value is a special data type which can have only one value, that is null. It can have only one value, that is null, completely null. A variable of data type null is a variable that has no value assigned to it. Null means nothing. It is the value does not contain anything, right? So if a variable is created without a value, it is automatically assigned a value of null, right? So variables can also be emptied by setting the value to null. So if you want the variables to be emptied, you can set the value of that particular variable to null. So this is an example. You can see $x equals null. So let me do this and show. Here you can see, let me remove this. Here what I'm going to do, I'm going to put $x equals null. So I've declared it as null. If I go back and check the output, you can see it says null. So that means it does not contain anything. Right, so this is how null can be used in your program sometimes. Next, we are going to learn about PHP constants. Now, what is a constant? Variable is nothing but the value constantly changes in variable, but in constant the value will never change. It will remain the same throughout the program. Just like pi is equal to 3.14, the same thing is called as a constant. A constant is an identifier for a simple value. The value cannot be changed during the script. It cannot be changed during the script. A valid constant name starts with a letter or an underscore. I told you the rules for variable. The same applies here as well. No $sign before the constant name. Here only difference is there's no $sign before the constant name. You can directly declare it. To define a constant, use define function. You will have to define a function for it. Define of name. What is the name of the constant? Then name, value, then case insensitive, right? So all these things should be done to create a constant. This is an example of how to create a constant. You can see define we have written. What is the defined constant? Constant name is greeting. Again, value welcome to TechVid Labs. Third argument is not given, so defaultly it is false. So echo greeting will tell welcome to TechVid Labs, right? So this is how you create a constant in PHP.